Alrighty, let's talk about Fox News. And I know that's everybody's favorite subject, and everybody absolutely adores talking about Fox News. It's the best thing in the entire world. Don't you know? Isn't it great to talk about a news organization that, well, in this case, disparages teachers like nobody's business? The first one we have here is from Ivana Dragmeyer. Said, "There is no escape, Cirrus. You will forever be trapped by Timer-kun. Even when you've gotten out, he'll find you and drag you back into the endless abyss of the subathon." This man, he is going to harm me. God, look at the terror in that face. Just the fucking fear. No. Timer-kun monster transformation is not okay. He can't hurt me. He can't. Is that a Lovecraft being? Robert Learn says, terror or arousal? Get that shit out of here. Seek Jesus. Next one we have here is from Secretly a Werewolf. Work in progress. I haven't done much detailed rendering in a while, so this is a lot of fun. Also, hey, first post. I wonder what the eyes look like under there. Are they crazed? Who knows? But I can't wait to see the final version of this. The last one we have here is from Curb. Says, hello, big fan of the channel. I was introduced through the Pokemon collab with Prophet of Zod. I finally worked up the nerve to make some fan art. Aw. Tiny slime grill. Tiny slime grill. It looks amazing. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and start wrapping up and gearing up. To hit the bell notification icon on the subscribe button. What, do you think the video was starting already? No, I've got to plug myself. Heck you. Also check out the Patreon. That's a thing that you could do that's helpful. Anyways, Fox is bitching about a teacher shortage. Isn't it great? Fox News saying that, you know, there's a shortage of teachers and we're failing our children. The teachers are failing the children. Oh, man. What a shame. You know, it's funny they would say that. Cat Abu decided to take the thread that I'm using for this video and turn it into an actual video itself to show the types of things that Fox News actually says about teachers. I wonder what the most watched news network on television could possibly do to the social zeitgeist. I wonder what opinions could possibly be influenced by Fox News. Let's hear the types of things that are said. Out of context, and then in context. Gotta poison that well, don't you know?
We're overplaying the importance of education.
So, doctor, this is grooming, right?
Brainwashing toddlers with racist drivel.
Cameras in the classroom as we put them on the chests of police officers.
But I don't think these teachers are even smart enough to be in the classroom.
Teachers hate teaching, and they hate their students.
They legit hate your kids.
They're lazy, they're incompetent.
Sluggish cat ladies in sweats stained with chocolate eclairs. The KKK with summers off.
Teachers make 20% less than people with similar degrees, but they also work 20% less. They have school, they have the summers off.
They would like less work, no accountability, and much more pay.
They're teaching our children to sext.
They took God out of our schools, Sandra.
To view pornography.
And then the left replaced it with CRT, which is this neo-Marxist religion.
What they're doing is grooming our children for sexual predators.
This is a new world order. Everything they do is anti-kid, anti-parent.
Why don't you go in there, thrash the teacher, and you're going to get hurt. And I think that should be the rule still. You get beaten up, you should be beaten up. Please.
So, now let's go through that all one by one, without the context ripped apart. Again, I wonder what kind of actual social environment teachers have to deal with when places like Fox News, again, one of the most watched cable networks that exists right now at all, are constantly doing this kind of shit. Let's start with gut feel.
Don't you think this is odd coming from people who are fighting for women's rights?
Oh, yes. I love that point. It's an excellent one. And the Five is doing the NEA and the Democrats a real service by pointing all of this out. Birthing people is the new Latinx.
Right.
And Latinx has been completely debunked by the Democrats, who are like, oh, wait, that wasn't a good idea to call them that for 2 years, and it didn't make sense to anybody, and alienated people that are possible supporters of the Democratic Party. The other thing is the CDC was found out today because of finally get the records about what happened. And during the lockdowns, they had a half-hour meeting with parents groups. That's it. And they spent all the rest of their time with the teachers' unions, and we know what happened. The schools got shut down. People weren't allowed to come back. The schools ended up with all that money that they still haven't paid, or they still haven't spent. And there are groups like Parents Defending Education, and they are suing the CDC, saying you must have balance. That you're in violation of the law. You have to have a chance for us to have public meetings, and that hadn't happened during that time. So,
wait, hold on. Is it that public meetings with parents didn't happen during that time? Or is it that public meetings happened for about 30 minutes? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't have meetings that happened but they were short, and meetings that didn't happen because they didn't happen. You can't do that. You can't do both. Said, why did Disney not kill evil this part after buying Fox? Because Disney didn't buy Fox News?
I think the teachers' unions are part of the reason that President Biden will end up in those low 30s.
Interesting. And in the end, Greg, don't you think that COVID had a silver lining, and this is one of them?
Well, the fact that we could see what was going on.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the NEA is against school choice. Like,
yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah. And anybody...
So, school choice. On the surface, it's one of those things that's very euphemistic. You hear school choice and you go, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. We want to be able to choose where our kids go, right? That's what that sounds like. The reality of that particular euphemism is that it really means you want to pull your kids out of schools that don't perform as well and take them to other ones, which, again, sounds perfectly fine and reasonable until you realize that that ends up segregating things on racial lines more often than not. Which really fucking blows, and should not be the case, and feels dumb. But let me check a thing real quick while I am here. It said, because of The Simpsons is Fox Entertainment, which is owned by Disney. Fox News is owned by AT&T. Same as CNN. Finley, thank you so much for the follow. So, let's go ahead and take a look here. One sec. That is not the one I'm looking for. So after all, rich people have to send their kids to school with poor people. They're going to ensure that the schools are better funded. Yeah, school choice is the go-to euphemism for the school voucher advocates that try to sugarcoat that original, very unpopular idea. School choice ends up being just euphemism for privatization.
At this point, who opposes school choice is protecting a destructive system that harms minorities who don't have other options. Yep. And that makes them truly racist oppressors. The NEA is the KKK with summers off. Think about, it's true. They're racist. If you're not allowing an opportunity for people who can't afford a good education to have a good education, you're trapping kids in a life that does not get much better.
So, the other half of this that's not being said is there's a reason the education isn't good at the location originally. What he's trying to say is that it's racist to not allow somebody to move from one local public school to a different local public school. Of course, you are able to move to a variety of public schools within any particular district. There are limitations, but you can. I literally left a school while I was growing up. That's a thing that you can do. But here's the other half of that that's important. What they're not talking about is the fact that every other kid. Your kid leaving one school, going to another, that's great individualistically, but why do we have a school that is performing so poorly to begin with? What is causing that? I hate to tell you this, but you know that CRT thing that they hate so much? Do you want to know why that's such a boogeyman? Do you want to know what CRT actually talks about? Why this is a thing that even happens in the first place? So, let's talk about redlining. When you redline various districts, you end up landlocking people into areas that are geographically locked from other areas that they could do business in, that they could work from, that they could commute to, but, oh, of course, the redlining also affected car loans once upon a time, so good luck with that one. So, most people ended up having these racial lines that were divided, and then people got stuck behind those racial lines because of redlining. Now, why does this matter today? Do you want to know how public schools get funded? Do you want to know how public schools get funded in America? Housing taxes. Not just taxes, Anubian. Housing tax. Which means lower income areas that were kept lower income due to redlining that was cut on racial lines? Guess what? The education system is primarily funded by that property tax. And because it's primarily funded by that property tax in low-income areas, that means there's not a lot of income going to those public schools. That's the other half of this that people like Gutfeld don't actually like to say, because that would reveal a very inconvenient truth for them. That the issue here is not that your kid didn't get the choice to go and individualistically go and have their better opportunity elsewhere. No, it's why was that even a problem to begin with? How can we fix that problem in the here and now? How did we get there? And of course, we have the context for the lazy and incompetent quote.
Often we hear, we say, oh, you know what, the police unions look out for the best interest of the police. Why is it that we would attack the teachers' unions for looking out for the best interest of teachers?
Because they're corrupt, they're lazy, they're incompetent. I don't think it's their fault, though, because I think the lack of competition has created this system where you now have a woeful generation of ambivalent educators. I know that's a blanket statement, but I'm talking about what I'm seeing with the teachers' unions. I don't think it was always like this. So my feeling is it is time.
Think about that statement. Teachers need competition. Teachers need competition. What does that look like? It looks like private charter schools. It looks like homeschooling that is being funded by the exact same places that fund private schools and make their curriculums. That's what it is. The goal here is very simple. As opposed to public education being available for everyone, people like Gutfeld would rather education be something that the parents have to front the bills for. Because that's what that competition ends up having. You don't have different types of competition within individual government institutions. You end up having to have other institutions. And you have to fund them. And the government's not going to fund every other institution in competition. The parents are going to end up having to front that bill. But of course, we get to talk about the genders.
Over the last few years, we've seen America's institutions rot, especially our school system. Instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic, children are being brainwashed with CRT and sex ed.
So I have a question here. Who here goes to school in America and doesn't learn reading, writing, and arithmetic? Can anybody confirm to me that you're not learning those skills in school still? I'm not as concerned with how well the school is teaching them. I just care that the school is teaching them. By the way, sex ed, that's also something that should be taught in schools. In fact, actually, states that have more standardized sexual education, more robust sexual education, have a lower likelihood of teen pregnancy and a lower rate of STD and STI transmittance. So, let's talk about gender stuff. Having a couple of minutes in a class where a teacher talks about gender because it's part of a social studies class or something like that, not a huge deal. Not really a huge deal. If you can call one student a boy and one student a girl, guess what? You can talk about gender in that class. They already have some understanding of what gender is. They already have some understanding of gender roles because you already have them in that class. You already have them there. The minute any students there recognize any differences between them and other people in the classroom, you're going to have a conversation about gender. But it's not just him, of course. Tucker Carlson is doing it too.
The Los Angeles School District is one of the biggest in the country. The district is now instructing teachers to educate children starting in kindergarten to experiment with non-binary pronouns, just to kind of destroy human civilization and throw it all into chaos and confusion. That's actually happening. By the way,
destroy human civilization? Tucker, how is human civilization going to get destroyed by just talking about gender? Oh no, you got attracted to a non-binary person randomly? Oh, dearie me my. God save the queen. Oh no, she's dead.
Why is a school talking to your kindergartners about sex? Shouldn't they be in prison for doing that? Yes.
They're not talking about sex though. You literally have it up there. How's it going, Poppy? You literally have it up there. They're talking about gender, not boinking. We don't do talking about boinking to fucking kindergartners, by and large. That's not a thing that happens in United States public education.
Yes, they should be. Chris Rufo has proved this is going on. He's obtained several documents.
This fucker! It's Chris! Again! Always! It's fucking Chris Rufo! We get back to Chris every goddamn time! I swear to God. I do 2 episodes on this man, and now he's on every goddamn news network.
From the district's equity department, he joins us tonight. Chris, thanks so much for coming on. Tell us what exactly is going on here, if you would.
So what's happening is that public school bureaucrats across the country, in this case in Los Angeles, have taken the principles of academic queer theory and then turned them into a K-12 pedagogy. They're training kids as young as kindergarten to experiment with sexual identities such as trans, genderqueer, pansexual, gender fluid, two-spirit, all of these really crazy and synthetic constructions that were...
You know what else is a synthetic construction, Chris? Gender, in general. It's a synthetic construction. That's what it is. That's literally what gender is. On top of that, you know what else is a synthetic construction? Sucralose. I'm sorry, money. Money is a synthetic construction. Something being a synthetic construction, or in this case a social construction, isn't a fucking issue.
We once thought were relegated to academia. They've now been mainlined into elementary school classrooms all over the school district in Los Angeles.
I'm really, and I mean this sincerely, I'm confused. If I find your kindergartner in the park and start talking to her about her sex life, you have a moral right to punch me out and call the cops. Why in the world are we allowing teachers to do the same thing?
1, because they're licensed educators, and 2, we're not talking about kindergartners. Again, sexual education tends to be a thing that happens between 4th and 6th grade, not in kindergarten. But of course, people like Chris Rufo aren't exactly terribly worried about the truth. They're more worried about the shock jock nature of their job. The things that will make people angry and freak out the fastest, because that's what makes them money. Oh, but don't worry. Don't worry. It's not just Tucker. Of course, we have Mark Levin doing the same thing.
Welcome back, America. One of the great observers of our culture is David Rubin, host of the Rubin Report. He has a fantastic new book out, Don't Burn This Country, Surviving and Thriving Our Woke Dystopia. Dave, I want to ask you...
Well, that's a plug. Looks like we have to plug DDLG Playground. Something, something, 10% off, something, something, coupon code Cirrus. Something, something, go fuck yourself with a plug. Said some schools don't teach proper sex ed until the 11th. Asked me how I fucking know. probably by being in one such school. I never got sexual education at all when I was growing up, because I was in a private school up until 6th grade, and then I went into 6th grade in public school. So, as a result of that, I was not ever actually able to get a sexual education, because here in not here in Florida, but in Florida where I grew up, 5th grade was like state mandated sex ed time. And then by the time I was in 5th grade, I was in a Christian private school, so we didn't get that. So, yay!
Good question about this culture of ours. I want to go right to the classroom and the parents' movement. I want to go right to Disney and so forth. I feel like this has all just suddenly happened in the last 2 or 3 years, where it has become a civil right to sexualize 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and 7-year-olds.
Who is sexualizing kids? Who? If somebody is sexualizing 5-year-olds, then please allow me to go beat them with a crowbar. But by and large, that's not what's fucking happening in public education.
And I say to myself, shouldn't everybody be rising up against this, whether you're straight or gay or whatever you are? Isn't the point to leave little babies alone?
Well, the funny thing here, Mark, is while it feels like it just burst forth over the last 2 or 3 years, as you know, there's been a long march through the institutions. I mean, I think people can link a lot of this back to colleges and the Ivy Leagues in the 60s. But in the last 2 or 3 years, supercharged by algorithms, what's going on with big tech, a complete...
God, how many buzzwords can you throw into a single sentence? How many catchphrases can you throw into a single sentence? Well, you know, Mark, what things are you afraid of? Give me a list here. Okay, let me say those things real quick. Big tech, algorithms, public education, college education. Well, you know, computers, Mark, computers. This is fucking cock and ball torture. Nothing has actually been said here.
Corrupt, woke media that lies to us about everything and tells us 2 + 2 is 5, and that being non-racist is being racist, and that boys are girls and everything else. It suddenly seems that this is everywhere and it is relentless. So of course what your real point is totally right. We should be allowing kids to be kids, and we
already do that, but okay.
Shouldn't be sexualizing kids, and we certainly shouldn't be allowing state employees, which is what public school teachers are, to have private conversations with kindergartners through 3rd graders, which is what HB 1557 in Florida, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, is about, and then
No, Dave, it was up till 4th grade, and also, no, the Don't Say Gay bill ended up having far-reaching restrictions besides that. We read the bill on stream. I have a video going over the particulars of that bill on my channel, and I remember it very well. It had that first stipulation of K through 4th grade, and then it had the vague stipulation afterwards of anything that could be deemed as not age appropriate, which was left intentionally vague. Like, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm not really sorry. I'm not really sorry at all. Because when we've looked over the bill ourselves, which I know most people who bitch about it have not done, and read in the bill where it used loosey-goosey language to actually extend farther past that 4th grade benchmark, then I already know that you're full of shit. I've read the literature. I've read the bill, Dave. It says it right there in the goddamn bill. Oh, speaking of the bill, of course, Tucker Carlson would be defending the Don't Say Gay bill, because of course he would. We're not going to read through the entire article, but here's him with Matt Walsh talking about it a little bit.
You hate to say this is happening, but it is. Physicians all over the country are violating the most elemental medical ethics by prescribing puberty blockers and hormone treatments to minors. Long-term effects totally unknown.
Side effects and complications: injections, site swelling, weight gain, hot flashes, headaches, potential growth spurts, bone growth and density differences, changes potentially in fertility, depending on when puberty blockers are started. Oh boy, it is almost as if we actually have all the information we need on this already. We're here. Oh boy. Oh boy. You could read an entire article about this. You could go to the Mayo Clinic right now and you could look up the side effects of puberty blockers here. There are potential long-term side effects like delaying plate closures, delaying growth plate closure, leading to slightly taller adult height. Less development in genital tissue is a thing that can happen, just like as would happen in any other instance where somebody has incredibly late-stage puberty. Are there other possible long-term side effects that are not yet known? Yeah, just like there are with every other medication that we have ever used since the dawn of time, Tucker. Come on, Tucker. It's not hard. This is not hard. We can look up this information. It's publicly available. Back to Gutfeld.
And now teachers are saying, look, we're not being paid enough. Is there
Yeah, teachers haven't been being paid enough for a long-ass time.
any way to resolve this in terms of where is that COVID money? Will someone tell me where it is, who's using it, who has the right to use it?
Well, first off, the administration's coming out and saying we need to pay teachers more. And by the way, teachers gave $20 million to Democrats and Joe Biden in the 2020 campaign. So this is a payback for teachers. Listen, I don't mind paying.
Yeah, it's how lobbying works. If you don't want lobbying in politics, then maybe you should, I don't know, argue for lobbying to not be allowed in politics. If you want to play by these dumb fucking rules where ExxonMobil can put billions of dollars into Republicans' fucking coffers, then you're playing by the same rules that say that teachers and teachers unions can put millions of dollars into Democrat coffers. I'm sorry. You created this goddamn world. You can change this goddamn world. You don't want money in politics? Fine. I don't want money in politics. Get it out. Do it. Do it. Get it out. And we'll see how successful your campaigns are without fucking oil money. Have fun with that.
Paying the good teachers more. But they're saying, listen, teachers make 20% less than people with similar degrees, but they also work 20% less. They have school, they have the summers off.
And that's called an occupational hazard. That is not... Okay, so teachers make 20% less. It's not just because they don't work during the summer. And oh, by the way, they do work during the summer. You have no idea the amount of time that teachers have to spend doing lesson planning, how much time they have to spend working extra hours in schools themselves. Teachers work on a salary, which means whether or not they are working in that day doesn't change the amount of time or doesn't change the amount of pay that they get. So if a teacher gets to school at 6 a.m. and ends up leaving at 8 p.m. because they're still grading papers and they barely get any sleep or any time to spend with their families, their pay is identical. Their pay is identical for all the fucking overtime they have to put in that doesn't get calculated as overtime because they don't work hourly. The least they could get is the fucking 6 weeks of summer off. And even then, most teachers end up having to take up part-time jobs during that time to make ends meet. Most teachers are teachers as a labor of love. And I know that the easy counter to that is, well, then they shouldn't be getting paid more. They should just be enjoying their work. They do enjoy their work, Steve from accounting. But that doesn't change the fact that it is grueling work, it is backbreaking work, and oh, by the way, their job is to literally prepare the next generation of people to be ready to lead this fucking country. And I hope you remember that when you're in a retirement home and they're the ones making the rules. But okay. Everybody needs to be able to survive. Arguing for better wages when you have a substandard working environment is not a bad thing. Absolute fucking dumb shittery.
We should pay good teachers more. The problem is they won't allow
good teachers. We need to pay good teachers more. Do you want to know how we tell what a good teacher is in America? We use standardized testing. You know the problem with that? Standardized testing is fucking bullshit. It doesn't actually give you an accurate measurement device on whether or not a student has learned the material. It just gives you an accurate measurement device on how well that student can retain something for regurgitation. How many of you can remember everything that you wrote down on any of your goddamn tests growing up? I guarantee you it's less than 10%. It's less than 5%. I'll even take a guess that less than 2% is a fucking overstatement. Standardized testing is largely fucking useless, and yet it is the metric by which everybody has to be graded by. So I have to ask, if you're trying to get the good teachers, what is a good teacher? How are we measuring that? If it's by standardized testing, that's not a good fucking measurement device.
Allow us to look at the performance of the teacher. Are kids learning how to read and write and do math? And if they are, let's pay them. But if you're teaching them to be woke, we shouldn't pay them more. And by the way, you're going to get more teachers.
If we're teaching them to be woke, we shouldn't pay them more. Okay, so if a teacher happens to be gay, and a student asks them about their husband, and they go, well, yeah, we met in, 1978, and we've been together for 50 years, and it's been wonderful, Timmy. And a teacher, fucking dipshit here goes, they taught the kid how to be gay! Ah! Whoa! And then you just have to go, oh, wait a minute. That's just a teacher talking about their everyday life, no different than any teacher talking about their spouse, or their time at home, or their childhood. That's stuff that can be important to humanize a teacher to a kid, that makes a teacher memorable and more likely to be listened to by that kid. And it just, it grips my balls in a terrible way to think of a world where no teacher gets to be a human while they're on the clock. Oh, wait, it's not on the clock. They're not on the clock. It's a salary. Who gets to work overtime for no extra pay and is told to just be a robot the entire time. This is Republicans asking teachers to be like fast food workers. Fun fact, and this is where I'm going to end this particular episode on. A little earlier than I normally would, but I think it's a good time to end this episode. Let's talk about a teacher of mine that I had in high school. He was my science teacher in 9th grade, and I can't remember his name because I can't remember the names of most teachers that I had, except my history teacher, because, I mean, I had him on an episode on my channel, so I remembered his name for that. But I went to a private school first. I learned that the world was 6,000 years old. I learned young Earth creationism. I learned a lot of shit that turned out to be wrong. I had no way of knowing that I was being taught something that was wrong. I thought evolution was an evil lie that was planted by Satan to destroy the world, because that's what I was taught. And then I went to high school. Something weird happened. I went to a school that touted itself as non-denominational. What that meant to me was a Christian was a Christian was a Christian. Didn't matter what denomination they were just a slightly different Christian. Different flavors of people. My science teacher was a Catholic. My science teacher, in 9th grade, talked about evolution. And I tried to talk with him about the world being 6,000 years old and how evolution definitely couldn't have happened because that's what I was taught at Pensacola Christian Academy. To which he looked at me and said, well, I'm a Christian and I've never had any issues squaring that circle. I know what the science says, and I don't think it's in conflict with what God says. Now, somebody might say that a teacher bringing up their religion in any way, shape, or form is terrible and should not be done in the classroom, and I want to agree with you. But my personal, albeit anecdotal experience, was that was exactly what snapped me out of young Earth creationism. It was that exact moment. Seeing a person who, to me, was like me. They weren't some heathen trying to take me off the path of righteousness. This was a fellow Christian and a professional who was telling me, no, you can square science with your faith. And that's fine. When teachers are not allowed to share those personal parts of their lives in any way, shape, or form, and this includes things about their gender, their loves, when they're not able to share those things, you lose that human aspect of what makes a teacher, and you just get a forward face regurgitating words on paper. That can be done by any computer system, and maybe that kind of automation is what Republicans want. But in my experience, that human element snapped me out of cult-like thinking. Rel HV says, okay, science is just another religion. No, it's not. Shut the fuck up. You have 3 brain cells, and they're all working overtime. Jesus fucking Christ. It doesn't meet any of the criteria of a religion. But okay. Sure thing. But like I said, that's my experience. That human element was not only important, but it snapped me out of cult-like thinking. And I would hope that nobody else has to have that experience, because nobody wants to be stuck in that kind of thinking in the beginning. But sometimes it helps. I don't want to see a world where the human element of teaching is stripped away. I don't. That said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Fuck Fox News. Insert end video tagline here.